CJ Carl Jr. Right now, currently, I met Mike through, I go to school at Lewis and Clark. I play basketball and football at Lewis and Clark right now. I'm a little older than most of the other students there. I'm 31 years old, and that's kind of what I'm going to tell you guys, part of my story. I'm going to let you guys know, like, one of the things I want you guys to think about throughout me telling my story is just I want you guys to think if anything that I say applies at all to what you guys are thinking. I want you guys to just be open to the fact that, like, you might end up where I ended up. Because when I was 13, 14, I don't know how old you guys are, 13, 14 years old. When I was 13 years old, I was in 8th grade. I was about the same size, fortunately. But I was in 8th grade and I played football, played basketball, ran track, played baseball, didn't have a care in the world, had never drank a drop of alcohol, didn't think about a drop of alcohol, didn't worry about any of those things. All I cared about was playing my PlayStation and going home, and I thought everything was wonderful. And my life went from that, and in 4 years, changed. And I don't think I was any different than a lot of other people, and a lot of other people's lives changed that way too. So I know when I was young, when I heard a lot of older people tell me about how their life had gone down the wrong road, I was like, oh, that can't be me. That can't possibly be me. And I don't want you guys to shut down the information that I'm trying to give you guys because you guys go, oh, that's not going to be me in the future. I want you guys to remain open. Can we do that?
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I grew up over by Jefferson High School in North Portland. Like I said, I was a young athlete, aspiring athlete. I was big when I was young. I was 6'3", haven't grown an inch since I was 13 years old. So I was big when I was young, and I could run. I was legit. I went to Central Catholic High School, played there, went through Central Catholic, and had the opportunity when I was done at Central to play at Oregon State University to play football. I can tell you one of the things that happened throughout my young days is I always kind of felt as if I didn't belong in social situations. I always felt as if, like, there was other guys who knew more than me. There was other guys that had it all figured out and I didn't have it figured out. But I didn't want to let anybody know that I didn't have everything figured out, right? Because I was like the big, like I felt like I had a lot of expectations because I was an athlete. I was like I was one of the bigger people, and I was one of the more recognizable people in my class wherever I went. So I felt like a big pressure to know what was going on, to always be right, to always have everything under control. And so because of that, I kind of faked the funk. I don't know, that might be a little old saying for you guys, but I kind of acted as if I knew. You know, so whatever circumstance I got into, I would just act like I knew the answer. I would act like I was the leader. I would act like all of these things, but none of that was really real. And that didn't, like, my self-esteem wasn't very high in anywhere else besides the field. And so that's one of the things I did. I pumped all my energy into the field because that was the one place that I knew that I was everything that I said I was. So I went to Oregon State, and what happened to me at Oregon State was I came into a lot of decisions. Now, you guys aren't in high school yet, right? All right, so at every level of transition, when I was young, I ran into new decisions that I had to make. When I was in 8th grade, I didn't have to make that many difficult decisions. Whether I wanted top ramen, whether I wanted Papa Murphy's pizza, there wasn't a lot going on. But when I got into high school, I had to make another set of decisions. Who was it that I hung out with? You have a lot more responsibility. What am I going to do with my free time that I get to choose? Am I going to, decide to go with the kids who are partying? Am I going to decide to do that? There's a lot of those decisions that come up that you're going to have to deal with when you get to high school that you don't necessarily might not have to deal with right now, right? So the same thing with college. But with college, there's no parents, right? So me, I led a sheltered life, kind of like my sister kind of did her thing, and my mom didn't want me to go down that road, so my mom didn't really let me go to many different places. So I didn't really do much when I was in high school. And so when I got to college, I was away from my parents for the first time, and I kind of did everything that I wanted to do, everything that I saw in the movies. You know, in the movies, they make college seem like it's really not. So just to let you guys know that information, first of all. I believed the movies, though, because that's all I knew. I believed the movies. I went on some recruiting trips, and I believed the extraordinary experiences that people had in college, and I wanted to experience all of those things. I wanted to go out, I wanted to drink, I wanted to smoke weed, I wanted to be the guy who was at where everybody else was at like late night, because that's not what I got to do. And unfortunately, I was so focused on that I lost sight of what I was really supposed to do. Like the foundation that had got me there. You know, when I was in high school, I didn't really care about school. I just did it because I needed to do it to go to class. I graduated like a 2.7. You know, currently right now, last term I got a 3.9 GPA at Lewis and Clark College. And that school doesn't necessarily hand out good grades. You know, it's a pretty tough school. But I got there, and I'll tell you guys about that a little bit later, but I never really cared about the things that my mom had always told me, the things that the coaches always told me, you know, pay attention in school. These are the things that you didn't need to pay attention to. I was like, oh, that doesn't matter, because of football, everything kind of worked out for me. You know, whenever there was a bump in the road, somebody came and smoothed it over for me. Because I was 6'3", 250 pounds, and I ran a 4.5, 340. Everything was supposed to work out, and I believed the hype. I believed that was going to happen because that was my experience. What happened when I was at Oregon State is they let me know, you don't come to class, you're out partying, you don't come to practice on time, you show up late, then there's other guys who we can do this. You're not that important here. You're not as important as you were in high school. And I found that out the hard way. You know, I got kicked off the team at Oregon State, and I had to come back home. And it was very embarrassing. I can tell you, just to speed up, it took me 8 years from that point to the point when I was 27 years old to get my life together. In those 8 years, everything got progressively worse. And my personal bottom was for about 2 years, I was homeless. So everybody's been downtown, you walk by, you probably don't even look at them. Probably don't even look at the homeless people because it's uncomfortable to look at people who are living like that. The only time you really do look at them is when they're on the side holding a sign. Well, that was who I was. I lived under a bridge. I did all kinds of different things that I never thought I would ever do when I was 13 years old, and I was sitting here listening to somebody else tell me this with my shoulder pads on and my helmet, and all I cared about was going out there and playing football, or going out there and playing soccer, or going out there and playing whatever sport was at the time. And at 27 years old, I got an opportunity to get my life together. 27 years old, I got an opportunity to face my own addiction problems, and I took it and I ran with it. And I don't really necessarily know why. But I know that at that point in time, I was ready to do some things that I had not been ready to do for a really long time. One of the main things was to listen. One of the two main things: listen, and to tell the uncomfortable truth to somebody who was older than me when I thought I would be judged. Now, from the time I was your age, I thought things about the world, I thought things about this over here, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I was embarrassed. I thought I would be judged. I worried about weed, I worried about alcohol, but I knew my mother didn't want me to touch that stuff, so I never asked her because I knew it would cause a problem. I didn't ask anybody about it because I knew it would cause a problem. I just waited my time, and I wanted to learn from somebody else's. I wanted to learn my own experience, to go figure it out myself. Well, that wasn't the right thing to do. What I found out at that moment in time was I needed to bring other people into my life, and I needed to ask them questions, and I needed to use their experience so I wouldn't have to go through all of these pitfalls myself. Like, I didn't have to fall in the pit myself and climb out of the pit to find out that the pit was there. What I found out was if I invite enough people into my circle and am uncomfortable for a very short period of time and honest, then what I can find out is I can see that the pit is up there and I can avoid it. And from 27 years old to now at 31 years old, that's what I've been doing. And I haven't changed an extremely large amount, but I've done a couple things that have allowed me to make proper decisions over and over and over again over the last 4 years. I can say that what I am now and what I'm able to do now is possible because of the things that I learned in sports. Like the tools were given to me in sports, right? And it wasn't until I took the effort that I gave out here on this field, which was easy. When you told me to run a line drill, or you told me to run from this end of the field to that end of the field because of sports or because of football, I did it, and I did it with joy. And I did it and I was happy. And I couldn't wait to get there the next day. It was practice time to do it again. You know what I mean? And I did not take that joy for something that is actually a lot of pain. I don't know if you guys do too much conditioning, but that's not very fun. Conditioning is very akin to doing homework or studying for a test. You know what I mean? But I didn't take that same mentality from the field into the other places that I was involved with in my life. And what happened, I can tell you that, and this is what I want to talk to you now, because I believe that you'll be able to relate. If you're able to take the same effort and the same fundamentals and the same habits and the same thing that you do out on this field, and you're able to apply it to school, and you're able to apply it to the relationships that you have with your family, then what you will become is you'll become a foundation piece, a strong piece that people in your life can count on. Because what do? You give that 100% effort. What do you do when you make a mistake? You get back up and you dust yourself off and you go back at it again. What do you do when you see somebody else who's making a mistake? When you see one of your teammates who's making a mistake, what do? Do you make fun of them? You pick them up and you bring them along with you? So I started to take those things and I started to apply them to school. And all of a sudden I'm getting A's where I never got A's before. Am I some kind of different person? Am I like smarter? I'm a little bit more mature at 27 years old than I was when I was younger, but I'm not able to do any more. But what I did was I actually started trying. And I actually started caring as much about everything that I did, just as much as I did about sports. And it changed my life. So one of the things that I want you guys to do is I want you guys to think about that on a daily basis. And one of the other things that I found out actually was that I can make a decision today. Like, you guys can make a decision right now that today I'm going to give maximum effort mentally, maximum effort physically in this practice. But tomorrow, can you get anything done off of today's decision? Or do you have to make that same decision tomorrow? You have to make the same decision every single day. So what I started to do is I started to cultivate the relationship that I had with myself in my own head. And I started to figure out what that was like. And I started to talk to myself every single morning and tell myself and remind myself, who is it that I am? Who is it that I'm trying to be? And every single morning I made the decision every single day. Because all I have is this one day at a time to make the decision and capitalize on who is it and what is it that I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff that took me from where I was at, under a bridge, to where I'm at today. And I'm blessed to be in the situation that I am today. And I can tell you that one of the things, I'll tell you guys a story. One of the things that I loved it when I was young. I loved it when I was your age, is that everybody would go, oh, he has so much potential. Oh, he has so much potential. They would talk about me. I don't know if you guys experience this. Older people will talk about you as if you're not even there. You know what I mean? Like, you'll be standing right there, but then you'll have some older people over here talking about you. And they used to do that to me all the time. Oh man, he's so tall, he's so strong. Did you see him run? He has so much potential, so much potential. And when I started to go down the wrong path, those same words that would uplift me, those same words that used to make me feel so good, were the same words that I dreaded. Because I knew I had so much potential, but I wasn't living up to it. And I didn't know why. Why couldn't I live up to my potential? Why was I able to do so much more than I'm actually accomplishing right now? And I found out that I really didn't know how to live life. I didn't have the right formula. And somebody talked to me and they pulled me off to the side and they said, the reason why you haven't met your potential is because you don't have the habits, you're not paying attention to the fundamentals, and you're not backing those two things up with the character to allow you to get to your potential. And I had to think about that. And I always think about everything in sports. So I used to hate it in basketball practice, no matter how good at basketball practice this year, we don't even touch a basketball at the beginning of practice. Season starts, all we do is run. And I'm wondering what's going on. Like, why are we running? Everybody knows this. Why are we dribbling the ball up the court back and forth with our right hand? Why are we dribbling it back up the court up and down with our left hand? Why are we doing chest passes and we're grown adults playing basketball? It's the same stuff I did when I was in second grade. Why are we doing this? It's one thing I hated about sports the entire time I was going through sports. Why are we always stressing the fundamentals? And until I got older, I started to recognize, because the fundamentals is what's going to get me to the point where I need to get. And so I started to pay attention to those fundamentals, the same in the classroom. Every single day I sit down in the same seat and I pay attention in the class, just like they taught me when I was a little kid. It's the same thing that's going to take me there now as an adult. And so what I found out, I took what that man had to say and I said, I'm going to build habits and I'm going to attach them with the basics, not the advanced. Everybody always wants to be advanced. Everybody pays attention to the NBA. They want to be Steph Curry. You know, they want to be the thing that's at the very, very top. And you have to realize that there's a grind that involves, and there's building. You have to build up to that, and if you don't build onto a strong foundation, then all of that will fall in times where stress is at highest. When it's fourth quarter and there's 2 minutes left, and you're out here dribbling without your hand out, somebody's gonna steal it, and you're not gonna be the hero, you're gonna be the GOAT. Whereas if you are dribbling with your hand out, then somebody's gonna try to steal it, you're gonna knock their hand away, you're gonna drive to the basket and you're gonna score. Now, it has nothing to do with dribbling between your legs or behind the back, that's fundamentals. That's what's going to allow you to make the play. That's what's going to allow me to get the grade, is the fundamentals that I have in the classroom. That's what's going to allow me to be there for my mother, is the fundamentals that I have, the basic fundamentals that I have in relationships with people. Being kind, being honest, being there for somebody, saying you're sorry when you're wrong, standing up for yourself. All of those things allow me to be the son that I want to be, allow me to be the brother that I want to be, the uncle that I want to be. The stuff that I learned when I was a little kid. And so what I did was I took the habits and I took the fundamentals that I saw in all the different situations, and I attached them with my character, with strong character, with the determination, with the drive, with the aggressive passion, and I attached all those things together. And what that allowed me to do was, on a daily basis, start becoming the person who I always wanted to be. Start becoming the man who I always wanted to be, when I would always tell everybody who I could possibly be and all the great things I could possibly do and the future that I could possibly have, but I could never quite reach. What I started to do when I had absolutely nothing and nobody thought I could be anything at that point when I was 27, I started to just on a daily basis act like the man that I wanted to be. And slowly but surely I became it. Now you guys are way ahead of the game, because you're at 13, 14 years old, you haven't made the mistakes. And I'm going to leave you with this. The very person who's a lot smarter than me asked me, he told me, he said, you want to be an amateur or a professional? And I wanted to know what he was talking about. He said, an amateur learns from his own mistakes, and a professional learns from the mistakes of others. And I sat, and that stuck with me for the last 4 years. And I said, what am I going to do at this point forward? Every single time I don't know the answer, I'm going to seek it out. Every single time I feel vulnerable and I feel like I don't know what's going on, I'm going to take that moment in time and I'm going to be uncomfortable, because I need to know the answer. I need to know how it is that I'm going to get through this situation. And I can guarantee you guys, the fact that you don't know what to do at a certain moment, whether it's on the field or whether it's in life, that's not the issue. Running into a roadblock, that's not the problem, because those roadblocks are going to happen. The question is, what are you going to do once you meet that roadblock? What are you going to do once you meet that challenge? What are you going to do once you fall into the pit? What are you going to do when you see the pit in front of you? What do you do at that moment? That's going to be what defines you. That's what is defining you. So I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything else.
Any questions, guys?
Are you playing football for Lewis and Clark now?
Yeah, I'm playing football next year. Played last year. I played tight end and receiver.
And how'd you do last year? You shared this with me already.
We lost every game, the team.
How was that?
And I lost more football games last year than I had lost in my entire life combined, up to that point. But I can tell you, when I was young, I used to think winning was the only thing that mattered. And I can recognize now, as a little bit older, winning and losing still matters, but there's so many different points where you have victory or you have defeat throughout the process of getting to the scoreboard, that I had so many victories piled up, those small victories, that the loss didn't trump all the rest of that other stuff. You know, like the victories that you have on a daily basis out here, the victories that I have just coming here, the fact that you guys are here right now, the fact that you show up, that's not guaranteed you could not show up. So that's a victory. And that's when I started to see all those things, and I started to actually put those on the other side of the scale, then I had a lot better experience losing 9 games than I ever thought I would, especially when I was young, because I didn't lose a football game until I was in like a freshman in high school. So.
Great. Well, what do we say to CJ here, guys?
Thank you.
And like our refs, what do we do with our refs at the end of every game?
Take care.
Good luck.
Oh, that's in the way. He just sweet dodged my thumb. Swim dogs don't feel. Swim dogs don't feel.
All right, guys, do the run.